Go.
Hey, I'm Dave Delaney from futureforth.com and davedelaneyspeaks.com. You can find me around there. And the best advice I've ever received was from my mom. She's British, so I say mom. And that is treat people the way you want to be treated. It's the golden rule, folks, and it really will help.
Dude, that's so simple and yet so beautiful. So I have to ask, not to be a downer or an upper, but is mom still around? Does she still give you advice, Dave?
She's still around. She still gives me advice. Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome, man. So how old were you when you first heard that advice? Because that is great advice.
I was just a wee one. I'm trying to think of how old I was, but I was pretty young. So yeah, probably just a kid.
Cool, man. That's very cool. So was that the genesis for your Networking for Nice program, or what helped you get started in that Networking for Nice people?
Yeah, I think it was certainly part of that. I think in my own experiences throughout my life, I realized that the power of networking and to do it nicely or to do it effectively is to do it nicely, and that is going out of your way to serve others. And so really just finding ways to serve others to help folks out. And so it rolled into I wrote about it a lot in my book, New Business Networking. And then that helped to inspire the website and the blog at networkingfornicepeople.com and the Nice Makers community.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I'm part of the Nice Makers community. I always enjoy learning about stuff there. So Dave, is that the if people are going to get started networking, should they just start maybe being nice to themselves, or how do people get started networking if they haven't done it before very effectively?
Well, yeah, to get started at networking, I mean, if you want to do it effectively, it is find ways to serve others and find ways to meet others. So nowadays we're doing a lot of that online, but hopefully we will start doing that in person again soon enough. One shot down, one to go for me. Yes, finally. Yeah, so as far as online goes, I think obviously LinkedIn is a very powerful network for that, and I find that helping teach people how to use LinkedIn effectively for their businesses or their careers is a big jumping off point, because that is where you can tap into your own network to get introductions to people that you want to meet who have a mutual friendship or mutual relationship. So using LinkedIn can be very effective, and then of course, once we get back to attending conferences and events and things like that, networking can be done there pretty well.
Sure. So you mentioned LinkedIn, and I don't know about you, Dave, but I've got 478 outstanding invitations that range from, hey, I'm really great, you should connect with me because I'm great, to mistaking what I do to LinkedIn lead generation. So how do we be more effective, man? I mean, how do we actually connect with other people by serving them when we don't already know them, Dave?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think so what you're really asking, so you're asking is what to do about these connection requests from strangers, really, right? How to handle those,
either that or how to not be that crazy stranger that approaches stalking levels.
Okay, yeah, both good question. So, well, in the first case, if you are receiving connection requests from strangers and you don't know how to handle those, I have a process for that and a system of how I handle that. But on the flip side, if you are sending connection requests to people and they are not being accepted, there's probably a reason for that. First of all, don't let it break your heart. Understand that not everybody uses LinkedIn frequently. Some people don't use LinkedIn often at all. So that's one point to consider. But more importantly, if I'm reaching out to you, Phil, on LinkedIn to connect, and I send you the default connection request, hey, Phil, let's connect on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's really tells you a lot, doesn't it? So you're probably less likely to accept that request.
Yep.
If I send you a connection request that says, hey, Phil, I absolutely love your show. I loved reading all your great smart commentary on sales and things like that. Then you might be more likely to accept my request and speak from there. So a very important part of networking, or, I always talk about the three key parts of networking. The first is to show up. The second is to follow up. And the third is to catch up. And so if we meet at a conference, let's say, or we meet at a Zoom group online, what I would do if I really want to connect with you is to send you an email afterwards to follow up and say, hey, Phil, it was great to meet you on the Zoom call today. Wow, the host was really smart, blah, 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 blah. Hey, I'm going to send you a LinkedIn connection request. I hope that's okay. And I'd be more than happy to provide an introduction to someone in my network should you need it. So that's telling you, A, hey, look out for that request from Dave. So I better log into LinkedIn. So maybe I don't do that very often. And B, Dave's got a Rolodex. I'm dating myself. Dave's got a Rolodex of people that he could introduce me to. So that's a good value add right there. I really should accept this request. And so that'll take you from email over to LinkedIn, where you will see my request there. I might also add a personal note. I will add a personal note in that request to say, hey, Phil, I emailed you too, but just remember, if you need anything from me, like an introduction or someone, just let me know. Happy to connect here. That. So you're really reminding them of who you are, how you met. Maybe we met at a conference. So you could send a reminder in that message to say, hey, so great to meet you at, Marketing Profs or whatever the event was. Just kind of remind them, something like that. So that helps to get your requests accepted. To my earlier point about how to handle those requests, and I get this a lot. I mean, if you're on LinkedIn, you get this a lot. In the early days of social media, it was very often likely to just accept. You would just accept connection requests from everybody, or at least most people would. And, now we are more, we guard our social networks more. So what I do is I have a little script that I wrote, and it basically says, hey, I'm not saying no to your connection request. I'm just letting you know that this is a default message, first of all. It is manually sent. It's not an automated thing. And my mind might be foggy today. I probably haven't had enough coffee, but please remind me how we know each other or where we met. If we haven't met, I would love for you to follow my content and things. And here's how to follow my profile on LinkedIn. Rather than connect, you can follow people. So you can follow me, permission-based stalking, basically, which is what Mitch Joel used to call Twitter back in the day. I always love that, permission-based stalking. But you can follow me because I cherish my connections. Because the truth is, if I'm connected to like every connection request, then Phil, you might see somebody who I'm connected to and go, oh, Dave can introduce me to that person. And you'll ask me and I'll be like, actually, I don't know that person. Like, what value is that? So I recommend that they follow me instead. I also give some links to like my LinkedIn profile audits and things like that if they're looking for something like that. So
awesome. So you sell them back almost, right? Sell them back on your content, on your value first, and that does weed out a lot of the automated requests, right?
Oh, it's amazing how few review or replies I get to that message. So, because what you can do in LinkedIn is when you get these connection requests, you can reply with whatever you want, and then this is what I do: I reply with that copy paste text. I then click ignore. That doesn't reject their connection request; it just ignores it for now. So, if they reply, then I might decide, oh yeah, okay, well I would like to connect with this person. Great. Or no, I'm not selling, I'm not interested in the steak knives. So thanks for trying to sell those to me. But honestly, it's probably maybe 10%, maybe 15 at the most % of those sending me connection requests reply to that message I send them, which tells me right away that they're using software or some nefarious means of just blanketing, sending out connection requests. And if they, don't care enough to send me a personal request, then I don't care enough to accept it.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure though that what I'm not hearing though is if they're a stranger, there's no chance of being in your network. You want to make sure that they're a human being and see if they have some value there. And if they're interested and maybe they can make a better request next time, Dave, or just spell that out a little more for us.
Well, yeah. So if it's a complete stranger, I mean, I'm sending that message out to just about everybody. If I see you sent me a connection request and I remember, oh, we just met at that conference. Yeah, I'm going to accept your connection request. So because I know you, I recognize you. But if it's somebody I don't know or I may not remember, I'll send that message and wait for a reply. And if I get a decent reply, then maybe I will accept that connection request from that stranger. If it's Bill Gates sending me a connection request, well, yeah, I guess I'll connect with him. So, I mean, I am, picky choosy a little bit here and there. But my point is, it's not so much of what's in it for me, but rather I just want to make sure that I'm connecting with humans, first of all, not bots, and also people that are not going to spam my network. So I want to weed that out and connect with people that will, that are great. And so if they don't reply to my message, why am I going to connect with it?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So human beings first, people who are actually going to respond, because to your point, you like to make connections. So if they don't respond, they just prove that, well, even if I connected, we're probably not going to really help each other. You just want to add another number. And then third, and maybe most important, is that if they respond and they say, Dave, we actually met at Inbound 17 years ago, they'd be like, oh, yeah, that's right, man. I forgot. Now we can have a conversation about that and probably have a laugh about it. And now we're actually connected, because even though we haven't talked in 17 years, now we're reconnecting over something in common. Is that right?
That's perfect. Yeah, that's a great example. I was just actually on like Scott Monte's podcast, which is a great podcast. And we were talking about like the first time we met at South by Southwest in 07, I think, or 08. And he had we were on a patio and somebody came by with an accordion and Scott asked to borrow it and started jamming with the accordion. And we were like, our minds were blown. So yeah, but that was like a fun little talking point to remind you of where you met and things like that. I didn't need that reminder for Scott per se, but yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, well, yeah, and years later, if we include that in the connection request, but we haven't kept in touch, it stays in your inbox. So for a selfish reason, it makes sense to always kind of remind people either why you're connecting or how you remember them or something, because years later, you might not remember that conversation, right? I know I don't often.
No, that's right. So you never delete your emails, always archive your emails. And so, yeah, because you have those transcripts, you have those emails back or direct messages or whatever you have that you can go back to years later. This is why what I was mentioning, those 3 important steps of networking nicely, is to show up. Okay, you went to the conference. Follow up. Okay, I've got your card. I'm going to email you Monday morning when I'm back in my office to say, hey, Phil, it was great to meet you. I'm going to send you a LinkedIn request, blah, blah, blah. But the third point is to catch up, which means maybe setting it in your calendar or CRM, if you use a CRM, to remind you, hey, it's that conference that's coming back around next year and we're getting closer to it. I should check in with Phil to see, hey, is Phil coming to that conference again? We can get together for dinner or drinks or coffee or whatever during that conference. So that's our opportunity to catch up and see, how things are going. How's life? I'm really looking forward to seeing you next time we're at Conference X.
Yeah, but perfect. That makes sense, right? As an agency owner or as a consultancy, those 3 steps are super helpful, right? We have to be where the people are that we want to talk to. We have to stay connected, right, by following up and reminding them, and then catching up with them, actually being interested in what they do before we jump right into their business pants to, steal a line from Kathy Klote's Guest, right? We got to be careful of that. So, yeah.
That's right. Yes.
Cool, man. Cool. So let's let's dive a little bit more into LinkedIn and then a few more tactics and strategies for folks here. So, Dave, LinkedIn groups, do you play in them? Are they any value? What do you do instead?
Yeah. So LinkedIn groups, I don't really do a lot in LinkedIn groups. I haven't personally found a tremendous amount of value in them. What I find, I've run LinkedIn groups in the past. And what I find is that they are often just grounds for, people just spamming links to articles that they wrote or podcasts that they produce or whatever. So I haven't found really strong, vibrant LinkedIn groups. That's not to say they don't exist. And I would be more than happy to come to any LinkedIn groups that any of y'all are recommending, because I just haven't found a lot of that. And even before you start, joining LinkedIn groups, it's important that you look great on LinkedIn too. So that's why I do profile audits for people at FutureForth and help people, improve the way they actually look on LinkedIn, not just their photo, but like how they're using LinkedIn for their profile and whether it's fully optimized and things like that.
Okay. Cool, man. So let's talk about that, right? I call it getting dressed before you get busy. I know you've got other ways of talking about this. So let's talk about the profile, Dave, because I do think it is, it's your almost your 0th impression, right? Before anybody even meets you, if you send them a connection request, if they're any good, right? If they're a real person, they're probably going to look at you and say, why? So what should be on the profile? What should not be on a profile?
Yeah, it's great question. Well, first of all, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile photo, that's a problem. I highly recommend having a decent headshot that looks like you, not some photo from like 30 years ago. Have a photo that looks like you as your profile photo. Don't have it like, you at a party or you with a keg hat with the cans or the hard hat with the beer cans or anything like that. Have a professional looking photo as your headshot. Profiles without headshots get seen far less. The algorithm doesn't even like LinkedIn profiles without a headshot. So your photo is very important. The cover image of your LinkedIn profile is very important. And that's great real estate to add more information about yourself. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, which is Dave Delaney, you can find me on LinkedIn there. You'll find that the image I have, I'm a keynote speaker and I do plenty of speaking, and I spoke for LinkedIn. And so LinkedIn, somebody at LinkedIn left me a recommendation. And so my cover image is me speaking on stage with that text of the testimonial from LinkedIn about me speaking. So when you see my profile on LinkedIn, thank you for sharing that. You can see that cover image that shows me speaking. And so straight away you're like, okay, well, this guy's a speaker. Obviously he's got a clicker in one hand, so he must be a speaker, and it's got that testimonial. So those are like your profile photo and your cover image are very important to include on your profile. And that's going to help.
Cool. That makes sense. So those are big things, right? So how do you, if you're an agency owner though, I would guess that being an owner means you're going to get targeted probably by a lot of folks who are looking for owners. So do you recommend that they put more of their functional jobs? So if they're like the creative director, or if they're the ads manager or something, or do you think they should leave it at owner or CEO?
That's a good question too. I think it all comes down to SEO, right? Search engine optimization. So to answer your question, it's how do you want to be found? So do I want, if I am a consultant or a public speaker, I want to be found. So I'll use those terms in my job titles, right? So that it's clear, or in my summary at the top too, and in my headline, so that those keywords are there, so that when somebody is searching for keynote speaker in Nashville, Tennessee, for example, they're more likely to find me. If you don't want to be found, there are settings for that on LinkedIn as well. So if people are, if you own a business and you are very busy and you don't want people soliciting you, well, there's ways to turn that off as well.
Cool. So so think about how you want to be found. Think about your search engine optimization. Good stuff. So what about contact info, Dave? Are you pro or con, including contact info in your summary, your about section, and in your job?
Absolutely. So, for me, my business is primarily consulting and working with organizations, with leaders on how to communicate more effectively and nicer. And so when they go to, my contact information is on my site at FutureForth. It's on my LinkedIn profile. It's there. My phone number is there and my email address is there. And the reason why they're there is I want people to be able to contact me however they choose, however it's most convenient to them. So my contact information is there. Even on my Google My Business profile, you can message me through that. Or on my website, I have a live chat feature, and you are live chatting with me most of the time. So I believe that, for me to turn people away, is missed opportunities of business, but also relationships, where if I turn somebody away, that they may have become a friend or somebody I could, help introduce to someone else. So I want people to be able to get a hold of me, in the means that they most choose. So who knows, over the years, maybe that will change. I don't know. If I'm like some big celebrity and my phone's ringing off the hook constantly and it's driving me crazy, then yeah, maybe I'll remove that. But for the time being, I'm happy with people reaching out. I want to hear from people.
Awesome. So what about content, Dave? You run your own kind of consultancy here. So what kind of content do you find is most effective, both in format as well as in actual topic?
Yeah. So, I'm old school as far as like blogging and just until not too long ago, I consider myself a recovering podcaster, but I'm at it again now. So I've got a new podcast. But my point to this is because I blog and I wrote a book and all these things, when I write articles on my blog, I will use those and I will promote them on LinkedIn through, posting the link. But then later I will take that copy, that actual copy of the blog post and replicate it and use it as a LinkedIn article. So if it's relevant to a LinkedIn audience. So I'm all for creating great content. If you're providing good content, you earn people's trust and they start to like you because you're providing great content. And the old line that people do business with those they know, like, and trust. So if you're creating great value in the articles or videos or whatever it is that you're creating and you're putting it out there for the world and you're sharing it, then, and again, this gets back to networking nicely, right? It's about, building, it's a two-way street, and it's about building and providing value first and foremost, so that, maybe somebody's more likely to take my call because they've read my articles and they're like, okay, yeah, I'll talk to Dave. I like the cut of his jib or something like that, whatever the hell that means.
Right. Well, I think that says that you normally dress like a pirate. Isn't that what that means, Dave?
Arr.
No, I hear you. So I'm also finding that content is a great leave behind as a follow-up, in your second step, there's a follow-up. Mm-hmm. Hey, we talked about X, and you know what? I had an article, a video, a podcast, a conversation about this, and now I can share it with them, and I find often that's super helpful for folks. It's one of the reasons that I podcast is I try to, get questions answered that people that I work with or want to work with might have, in hopes that then I can share a piece of content that then, to your point, they'll say, oh, what a nice guy. Maybe I should take his call. So
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, that's completely right. Yeah, that's the way to do it. And by the way, a little tip for if you go to conferences or when we start going to conferences again, write a blog post. This is what I've done over the years for myself and for companies that I worked with. Write a blog post that summarizes the key takeaways from that conference or your experiences there. Maybe embed a photo gallery or some videos from YouTube and put them on a blog post. Because then when you follow up with all the people that you met at that conference, you can include the link to that blog post. And one way to tease it out too is if you're posting a photo gallery, you can say, hey, Phil, it was great to meet you at Inbound. I just wrote a whole summary of my experiences there that I think you'll get a kick out of. And by the way, I also have a photo gallery of all the cool people that I met. And you might even be in one or two of those photos. And straight away, everybody wants to see, okay, am I in the photos? Oh, God. I hope I'm okay, looking okay in the photos. So they're more likely to go and read the article and see the post. And then they get to know, oh, Dave is a consultant and he works with companies and blah, blah, blah. So.
Yeah, I dig that. The photo gallery is the most underutilized feature for many people, and not just a picture, but several pictures to help them get a flavor for what's going on.
Yeah.
And to your point, right, a lot of times, it could be even cheeky, like, Dave, you were sitting in the audience 7 rows back, and I'm not sure, is that really Dave Delaney? I don't know, right? So I think that, that's a fun way to do that. The other way is one where I got you, right? If you're sitting in the audience, take a picture and include something smart that they shared, and then share it with the speaker as well as share it on social. As a great way to open a door for a conversation.
Yeah, you got a great photo of me speaking at that conference. So yeah, for sure. And then you made like a nice little quotable. Yeah, so that's a great way to network with speakers specifically, for sure.
Yeah, and to that point, right? Any other agency owners that are around, right? If you're at the networking event, try not to catch them taking shots, but do try to have them, in a friendly shot, right? So
right, yeah. Some of those conferences can get pretty crazy.
Yeah, for sure. So Dave, as we're kind of wrapping here, man, you got to tell me, what is the number one question that you get about networking, and how do you answer it?
Well, that's a good question too, Phil. Gosh, all these great questions. The number one question I get about networking. That's a good question. I guess really it's how to do it nicely. Like, people say, like, okay, like, how do I network nicely? And I think at the end of the day, you treat people the way you want to be treated. Getting back to that golden rule from my mom. It's about treating people the way you want to be treated. That's the first most important part of networking. Otherwise, you can go to an event and you can be that person shoving business cards in everyone's face and trying to collect as many as possible. But what good is that is when you get back and you've got like a stack of business cards and you don't remember any details about any of these people. And when this happens, this stack of business cards sit on your desk for months, they collect dust, and then you eventually chuck them in the garbage because you don't know any other people, or you add them to some list and start spamming them. And in both cases, that's so sad. So what I recommend is, when you're at an event and you're talking to someone and you're asking questions, open-ended questions, as you speak with that person, try to find out what they are seeking. Right? On my podcast, I interviewed Chris Brogan in the episode 1 of the Nice podcast. And Chris had a great point about this. The question of how can I help is so generic, and you're way better off asking somebody like, I could help you this way, or when we met, Phil, you were talking about X, Y, and Z. And in my follow-up, I could say, I know a couple of people who do X, Y, and Z. I'd be more than happy to make an introduction. Maybe that would help you, or provide some feedback on, hey, let me take a look at your LinkedIn profile. I can give you some feedback if that, because that's something we had spoken about. So, and the way to do that, by the way, is when you are at conferences and events, make notes on the business cards later, discreetly, but take some notes on the business cards of the people that you meet to remind yourself of the points you should follow up with later. Maybe it's, I should introduce Phil to, whomever, or maybe it's, I should share that salmon recipe with Phil because we ate salmon at lunch and loved it, and whatever it may be. But that will help you in your follow-ups. And then you'll include that in that email, and you'll have that when you're catching up later to say, hey, 6 months later, hey, Phil, haven't heard from you in a while. Did you ever have that salmon? Did you ever cook up some salmon with that recipe? What did you think? Or, whatever it is to kind of follow up with that person. And of course, you can do this online too when you're meeting people. Just take notes, or, if the call is like this and it's a podcast or video interview and it's being recorded, watch it later and then take some notes about what you talked about. And then maybe you can follow up on some points there too. So rather than ask, how can I help you? Find ways to help the person. And that means listening when you're communicating with them.
What? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening, Dave. Just kidding.
I'm right? Dreadfully boring. I apologize.
Just kidding, right? No, but I think it's so important that we remember that we listen and we pay attention, and we be as specific as possible in that follow-up to show people that we actually do care, that we actually are a nice person, that we're not just somebody trying to, jump the shark and, hey, let's do some business.
You're
Right?
right.
Like that's
Right.
that's awful. So great, really awesome points today, Dave. I love this. I love how you handle those weird connection requests, that templated message. That's really awesome. The specificity with a connection request is super important. Your 3 points about networking, right? Showing up, following up, and catching up. That was great. And then last but not least, really first, right? Treating other people the way that they want to be treated. I love that, Dave. That's really, really great. So if folks want to get more connected with you, obviously futurefourth.com is your website. We
Yep.
talked about LinkedIn, but is there anywhere else, Dave, that you'd want them to go so they could get more connected and more of your brilliance?
Futurefort.com is the best place to find me. If you hit the live chat, you're probably chatting with me. You'll know if you're not, but so that's a good spot that you can go. I'm on all the social networks. You can find me, Dave Delaney. I have an email newsletter I send out every Friday called The Nice Maker at nicemaker.co. If you're interested in that, I've got the podcast, thenicepodcast.co, if you want to find that. But yeah, if you visit futurefort.com, that's where you can find me.
Cool, man. Cool. Well, we'll definitely have to share that out, get people going to Future Fourth so they can network more nicely and, frankly, more effectively, right? Get connected to the people you want and ignore the people you don't. Really awesome stuff today, Dave. Thanks so much for spending some time with me, man. I always learn a lot from you.
Always a pleasure, Phil. Yeah, no, it's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Have a great day and go network your face off by being extra nice.
Yes.